Hello! Welcome to the Blackboard Roadmap presentation. Blackboard recently released a new roadmap and it contains a lot of exciting feature changes and updates that are coming our way. We're going to spend a few minutes today looking at those changes. First, we're going to start inside of Blackboard Collaborate. The list of features here on the screen are things that have already been released and you can begin using them immediately. Blackboard saw over a 3,600% increase in its daily users inside of Collaborate at the beginning of the COVID outbreak. This meant that they obviously had to increase their capacity. The first improvement they made was to their dial-in option. Previously, some users would experience errors when attempting to dial in. Now with the new upgrades, they should no longer encounter any errors and should be able to dial into any session with just fine. The next feature that has been released already is that you're able to share content to and from breakout groups. This is super important when you have breakout groups of students or participants and you want them to be able to interact with the same material. This allows you to not have to enter each breakout group and reshare the material. You can share it once, tell it all the places you want it to be seen, and then allow the participants to interact and then come back as a whole group. The next here is browser push notifications. These notifications allow you to enable them inside of the session, and then if you navigate away to a different tab or a different window in your browser, a notification will pop up alerting you that you have a new chat or that someone joined or left your session. That allows you to then navigate back to the Collaborate session and provide any necessary interaction with whatever that notification was. Then next is a new emoji picker. This may not seem like that big of a deal for an update, but we all have learned that students are very timid in engaging verbally in any sort of webinar, whether it's Teams or Collaborate or another feature. So having the ability for them to put an emoji in the chat to indicate they understand or they can hear you or indicate how their day is going is super helpful to gauge student participation and engagement. So having a new emoji picker, this one is streamlined. It's got a couple hundred additional emojis. So it can be super useful for your engagement with students. The last one here is that the ability to stream audio and video to participants. Previously, you would have to put the YouTube URL or any other link inside of the chat, have participants navigate to that video on a different tab or a different window, watch the media, and then come back to your session to engage with you around the media. Blackboard has corrected that clunky process, and you can now play audio and video right inside of the session, making it a really streamlined process for you to be able to share multimedia with participants inside of Collaborate. A couple of new updates that are going to be coming to Collaborate in mid-July is the target window. We'll obviously know more about that date when we get closer. The first big one that you can see here is going to be the new redesigned whiteboard. We can see that we now have the ability on this whiteboard to change the font color. We can change the font itself. We can change the size and the alignment and the centering. We can still, like we previously always have, draw by hand with either a pen or a brush, but we also now have the ability to add more shapes and also line items. What's really exciting about this new whiteboard is that when you want to erase something, no longer does the entire whiteboard erase. You'll be able to select the items you want to delete and erase those individually. Currently, when you click the eraser button, the entire whiteboard clears, making it kind of frustrating. A super exciting feature to this whiteboard is called persistent content. Persistent content means that if I start drawing on this whiteboard, type and I text and I draw and I add all my information, and then I navigate away to show a video or a file, and then I come back, my content is still going to be there. In the current version of Collaborate, that doesn't happen. Your content on the whiteboard would be erased. The persistent content, that will no longer happen. The other feature that we're going to see here inside of Collaborate with the whiteboard is that you will have additional whiteboards. So if you start on the first whiteboard and you run out of space working through the problem or whatever content that you're working through and you need more space, you'll be able to move to navigate to a second or even a third whiteboard. Persistent content would kick in here as well, and that whatever you initiated on the first whiteboard will then be able to be seen when you're interacting on the second one. You can come back to the first and it'll still be there. There are two features we're looking at here in this preview. The first we're going to notice here at the top of the screen. Collaborate will give you a start your session recording reminder. At the beginning of each session when you join, you can simply start recording or dismiss. This is super helpful. Oftentimes we get into a session and realize, dang it, we forgot to hit the start button halfway through it or even at the end, and it's super frustrating because you didn't capture that learning or content that you needed to. So it will give a gentle reminder. You could simply hit dismiss if you don't want to start it, no big deal. The other feature that we see here on the screen is a record button down here at the bottom. This button is super helpful because it's going to be a start and pause and stop recording button. Currently, if you start a recording and you want to take a break, you either have to let your session run for that 15-minute break, or you have to stop it, and then you end up with two separate recording links and recording files. Well, that isn't super convenient for users to view those recordings later when they have to see it broken into chunks, and maybe you want it that way, but in most cases, we don't. So this button here will allow us to be able to start and pause and resume recordings for one smooth, continuous recording session. A couple of other features that we're going to see in that July update is that we're going to be able to download session poll results. If you throw up a poll, whether it's multiple choice or yes and no, you'll be able to download those results in order to form interventions or further learning opportunities, or for whatever information you may need it for. You'll be able to download that from the recording section when this feature is released sometime this summer. Another feature of note is that we're going to be able to have much larger session sizes. Currently, you ask Blackboard for permission to have more than 500 users in a session. That will no longer be the case come July. We'll be able to have a minimum of 500 people with as the norm, and anything larger than we would look at those on case-by-case basis, but this just makes it nicer to be able to hold larger events. The final option that we're going to see released is secure recording links. Currently, when you record a session and it generates a link, if you send that link to a user, that user technically can forward that link to anyone in the world and they can view your recording. While this often necessarily isn't an issue or isn't super important, maybe you were discussing something sensitive that is confidential or things of that nature, and you don't want anybody in the world to be able to view it. By generating a secure recording link, you have the ability to then have the user authenticate into the system in order to view the recording. It just keeps your material a little bit more secure for you, if you so choose that feature. The next area of interest that we're going to jump into is called the content editor. For those of you who are, the word content editor isn't ringing a bell in your mind, this is the content editor. I'm sure you will all recognize this is how I create announcements. This is how I give feedback. This is how I create an assignment or a test. All of that is true. This content editor exists in every single place in Blackboard anytime we are creating anything, thus the name content editor. This is getting a long overdue upgrade. This content editor upgrades will come out in mid-July, around the same time the Collaborate updates come. Here's the big reveal. Here is the new content editor. We can see that it looks a little more sleek, a little more modern, a little more up to date. There are some new features here that we're going to talk about. The first that I want to point out is the mobile responsiveness of this tool. In the current version of the content editor that we all use every day, that is not the most mobile responsive item. Oftentimes, some of the rows will be showing off in mobile view. However, that will no longer be an issue when we get the new content editor. It is super mobile responsive here. This is mobile view, and you can see that the rows simply wrap themselves. The next feature that it will be included in this content editor is a new special character search and grouping feature. Currently, if you've ever had to use a special character, you will have had to scroll through a really long list that is not sorted or organized in any sort of recognizable way. Makes it super difficult to find any characters that you need. The next, so with that update, we're going to be able to search and or look by category to find the symbols we need. This probably isn't the most highly used feature in Blackboard, but it's important to know in case you ever do need a special character for any purpose. The next feature we're going to see is a new emoticon search. This is going to look just like the Collaborate one, just a little bit different in that we have a ton of new emoticons and the ability to search that are grouped by when you're looking for something specific. Just makes a little more excitement added to your announcements or assignments or things of your or other items of your choice. The next view here that we're going to look at is super important, and it's an accessibility checker. Currently, we all have to rely on our own knowledge of what is accessible content and what is not. And oftentimes, accessible content is complicated and it can be confusing, but it's super important. The importance of accessible content is that we have to provide accessible content to all students. It's part of our jobs as educators. So what Blackboard has done is built an accessibility checker right here into the content creator. There will be no required licensing or no special permissions being added. This will just be an everyday feature any user of Blackboard can use when they're creating anything. We're going to go ahead and click this little people button, and it will pull up your accessibility checker here. In this case, it's found 3 issues in this block of text, and it's saying that this paragraph looks like it should be a header. That formatting is important for screen readers. It helps screen readers navigate through the page more efficiently and effectively for students. It will also look for things like font colors and highlighting where contrast is too low. It will tell you you could ignore the error, which we wouldn't recommend, and then it'll also help you repair it. It'll help you fix it right here in it for you, so you don't have to guess what the solution should be. And then you would be able to page through all of them and make the necessary corrections if needed. So that is going to be a super important tool as you all create announcements and other content in your courses, just to make sure that it's still accessible. The only thing this accessibility checker won't look for is the text inside of documents, but it will look through all of the text put directly inside this content editor. This next feature is probably one of my most favorite features that is going to be released here with the content editor, and that is the embedding of video content. Currently, this has always been a no-go. You should not be putting YouTube videos directly into the content box of a course, because the filter, anytime a student would click on it, the filter would kick on if a student was on a district device or district computer, and they wouldn't be able to access that. Well, now the content creator is getting a lot smarter. You're going to be able to paste a YouTube URL just like this that you would get like you were previously doing. And then once you paste it in about 2 to 3 seconds, the whole embedded media will render. No longer do you have to use the mashups, nor do you have to use the video insert tool to insert it in. It does that automatically for you. So this is going to allow you to insert media into your announcements or your assignments at a much more effective rate. You won't have to spend as much time trying to do it. The final area that we're going to look at is called Blackboard Annotate, or it's known by its shorter name as BB Annotate. This is going to be released to test environments later next week, and our office will begin testing it and creating some learning materials for you all on it. And then you will see it dropped into our actual environment of Blackboard. They're on or after May 25th, so just about a month away. It could be a couple days after that date, depending on when Blackboard gets our servers in that list for updates. So we all currently know what Box looks like. This is what you see when you go to provide inline grading and feedback to students on assignments. Most of us, I should say, remember the days of Crocodoc when that was around, and we were highly disappointed when Box replaced Crocodoc. We lost a lot of features and a lot of great things that could happen. Well, I am excited to tell you that Crocodoc 2.0 is here, and it's called BB Annotate. Here is BB Annotate. Super exciting. We're going to spend a few minutes talking through highlighting some features here, but don't worry, we will make sure that you have plenty of materials and training available to you before and after this is released to you so that you can use it effectively in your courses. We can see that this looks really similar to the Collaborate whiteboard in some of the features that it has available, but let's walk through a couple of them. The first here is the view inside BB Annotate. We can look at a couple of different views and they all do different things. For our purposes, we're going to inside this annotations view for this demo. This annotations view gives me a list of all the annotations down my left-hand side, and I can go ahead and click on one of them, and it will then select whatever annotation that was so that I could then edit, delete, move, or replace it so if I so choose. But it'll just let me know where on the page that specific annotation is. The next feature we're going to look at here is just like Box. We have the ability to use our hand drawing tools, and draw and highlight and circle all the things we normally do. We will have the ability now to add images and stamps inside of our documents. An image is just like it sounds. You can insert a picture if you need to. The stamp is the ability to add stamps. We can kind of see a stamp here in the background of what they are. If I'll back up one step and I'll show you, you can see that there's a stamp here in the top right corner with the date and time added to it. So we'll have the ability to add stamps. What that stamp does, there are some pre-existing stamps that you can add if needed. Or you can actually go ahead and create a custom stamp by clicking on the custom stamp, and it would create it and add it into the document for you. So just another option that you can use when engaging with student work. The next one we're going to look at is called direct text. Direct text is text. Is exactly what it sounds. It is text on the page. So up right here, we can see this. The words update list is direct text. You can see right here in the screen that these are the types of documents that will open in the new Blackboard Annotate view. PDFs, Excel, PowerPoint, Word. Very similar to what we were seeing in Box, but just a couple of different new types of Excel documents were added. So we'll be able to open most of our students' work right here in Box View and provide inline commenting and feedback. So this is direct text on the page. I can go ahead and change the font color, the actual font itself, the size, the alignment, all of those necessary things if I so choose. The next feature here is commenting. We can provide comments just like we always have been, but it's a little more streamlined in how it's provided. I can provide comments on any area of the document. Now, if we have multiple graders, which I'm sure is going to be a rare case for us, but if we did and they wanted to point out multiple comments in the same area, they will actually be able to be collapsed into one running thread so the student can see those comments a lot easier. If I had another comment up here up in this paragraph, I would probably have another comment box up here that students would be able to do. Students will be able to download and print our annotated documents. That is a feature that was promised in Box and was there for a little while and sometimes functions when it may or may not. So students will have the ability to print and download or download the annotated document. We will also have the ability to insert shapes just like we did in the whiteboard. So those same shape features are there. We can see a sample here in the middle of the screen. We can see, in this case, we actually inserted a rectangle, and then I'm able to change the color, the line thickness, and then I'm able to change also the line type. In this case, we gave it a wavy bubble type, so it gave it just some visual interest to the student. Again, just another tool to have in your toolbox when you're providing feedback and grading to students. The last feature we want to point out here is something that I'm sure you're all going to be super excited about, is the fact it's going to be called a comment content library. So it's a little bit of a tongue twister, but what that means is that I have the ability to reuse comments across students, across assignments, and even across courses. So I'm able to add a new comment here. I'm able to search this little content library for comments. So in this case, if I wanted to add a missing comma comment, I could simply click on it and it would insert that comment. I could edit or change or delete it via some setting options here. What's really exciting about this feature is that not only am saving myself some time and work by retyping the same comments, is that this content library of comments are going to travel with you as a user. So if I teach a world history course for SVL and I teach a U.S. history course, but I want to reference the same missing comma comment, I will be able to access this same content library inside of all of my courses, no matter what I teach, whether it's SVL, whether it's in the building, or any combination of those. So that's going to be a super exciting feature for us and our students to be able to better provide a higher level of quality feedback. If you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out to the tech team. We'll be happy to assist you with those. We will make sure that we have plenty of learning opportunities and materials provided to you before any of these updates come out, so you will not be left guessing on how to use any of them. Like I said, reach out to us if you have any questions. Thank you.